The
How many
porcelain
times do I have
plate
to tell
shattered
you?
against
You
my
never
temple
listen to me.
before I
This
even
is your
saw it
fault.
coming.
Stop
One
it,
moment,
please
I was
stop.
standing in my parents' kitchen asking my brother to move his
You will
car.
pay for
The
this.
next, the
Everything is
world
ruined
tilted
because of you.
sideways in a blur
Please,
of
I'm
white
sorry.
ceramic and cream-colored
Somebody call
walls.
security.
I
She's
heard the
lost it.
crash,
Look what you've
felt it
done.
really,
How could you
deep in
do
my
this to
skull
us?
where
I
sound
want you out
becomes
of my house
sensation.
right now.
Then my knees hit the hardwood floor, and everything went dark.
I'm afraid the
When I
scans
came
confirm
to,
our
I was
initial
staring at
diagnosis.
grout lines
The
between
cancer has
kitchen
spread
tiles.
significantly.
Someone was screaming,
No,
and it
this
took
can't
me a
be
few seconds to
happening.
realize it was my mother. She was screaming at me. "Look what you made him do!" Karen Foster's voice cut through the ringing in my ears. "This is exactly what I'm talking about, Rachel. You always push him too far." I tried to lift my head, but the room spun. Something warm and wet dripped down the side of my face. Blood. "Mom." The word came out slurred. "Get up. You're being dramatic." Her designer heels clicked across the floor, but she wasn't coming toward me. She was going to Dylan. Through my blurred vision, I watched my 28-year-old brother sink into a chair, his face buried in his hands. The picture of remorse. "I didn't mean to," Dylan said, his voice cracking just right. "She just kept pushing about the stupid car. I'm under so much pressure at work, and she knows that." "I know, honey." Mom stroked his hair like he was 5 instead of nearly 30. "That promotion review is this week." I asked him to move his car. I managed the words, still on my hands and knees. It was blocking my driveway. "Your tone, Rachel." My father, Michael Foster, hadn't even gotten up from the dining table. "You know Dylan's been stressed. You could have asked nicely." I touched my temple. My fingers came away red. The kitchen lights seemed too bright, too sharp. I was pretty sure I'd blacked out for more than a few seconds. "I'm going to the hospital," I said, using the counter to pull myself up. "Absolutely not." Karen was in front of me now, her perfectly made-up face hard. "Don't you dare, Rachel. What will people think?" "Mom, I'm bleeding. He threw a plate at my head. I passed out." "You slipped," Dylan interjected smoothly. "I saw it. You've always been clumsy, sis." I stared at him, at the brother who used to walk me to school, who'd given me a concussion at 14 by accidentally pushing me into the pool deck, who'd broken my wrist at 16 by grabbing it too hard, who'd cracked 3 of my ribs at 19 by shoving me down the stairs. Each time it had been an accident. Each time I'd been clumsy. Each time the family had closed ranks. But this time felt different. "I'm 24 years old," I said quietly. "I'm going to the hospital." "If you do this," Michael said, folding his newspaper with deliberate precision, "you're making a choice, Rachel. This family doesn't air its dirty laundry in public." "Dirty laundry?" The laugh hurt. "Is that what you call assault?" "Don't be dramatic." Karen's grip on my arm was tight enough to bruise. "Your brother has worked so hard for this promotion. Do you want to ruin that for him? Over a little accident?" "Mom, I blacked out." "You've always been prone to exaggeration, ever since you were little, making everything about you." Something in her voice made me look at her more closely. Behind the anger, behind the perfectly applied lipstick, I saw fear. Not for me. Fear of exposure. Fear of what the neighbors would say, what the country club would think. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. "What are you doing?" Dylan stood up fast enough that his chair scraped. I flinched, actually flinched, and hated myself for it. "Calling a rideshare. I shouldn't drive like this." "Rachel!" My father's voice held a warning. "If you walk out that door and go to a hospital, you are choosing to betray this family. The trust fund your grandmother left you? That goes through us. Your car? We co-signed that loan. Think very carefully about what you're doing." I looked at him, the man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd helped me with college applications, the same man who'd watched Dylan hurt me over and over and had somehow always found a way to make it my fault. "I'm thinking very clearly," I said, probably for the first time in years. The rideshare app showed 3 minutes away. "You're making a huge mistake," Karen said, her voice shaking with rage. "If you embarrass this family right before Dylan's review, you will regret it." "I'll get help," Dylan said suddenly. taking on that sincere tone that had worked so many times before. I promise, sis. Real help this time. Therapy, anger management, whatever you want. Just don't do this. We're family. I stopped at the door. How many times have you promised to get help, Dylan? 7? 8? This time is different. It's never different. I opened the door. It just gets worse. Rachel? Karen's voice cracked. Don't you walk out that door! But I was already down the front steps into the cool October evening. A Toyota Camry pulled up. The driver was a black man in his 50s with kind eyes that widened when he saw my face. "Oh, Jesus," he said. "Miss, should I call 911? No, just Connecticut Valley Medical Center, the emergency room." He pulled away. In my parents' doorway, I could see 3 silhouettes backlit by warm kitchen light. A picture-perfect family, minus one defective daughter. "None of my business," the driver said quietly. "But my daughter went through something similar. You got somewhere safe to go after the hospital?" I pressed my sleeve against my temple. "I don't know yet." "Here." He handed back a business card. "My sister. She's a counselor, specializes in domestic situations." The card read, "Patricia Williams, LCSW, Family Crisis Intervention." "Thank you," I whispered. "You did the right thing. Whatever happened back there, it's not your fault." I wanted to believe him, but all I could hear was my mother's voice. "You always push him too far." The hospital was 12 minutes away. In that time, my phone buzzed 17 times. "Mom, where are you? Get back here now!" "Mom, come home and we'll forget this happened." "Dad, this is your last chance to handle this like an adult, Rachel." "Dylan, I'm sorry, please don't do this to me." "Dylan, my whole career is on the line." "Dylan, fine, do what you want. Just remember you did this to yourself." I stared at that last message, trying to understand how he'd managed to twist this into something I'd done to him. At the ER, the driver helped me inside. A nurse took one look at me and grabbed a wheelchair. "Honey, when did this happen?" "Maybe 20 minutes ago." I blacked out. "Previous head injuries?" I hesitated. "A few, but they were accidents." Something in her expression changed. "I see. Let's get you to a room." They took me back immediately. A different nurse took my vitals while asking gentle questions. I gave the practiced version. Dylan and I had argued, things got heated, a plate was thrown. I didn't say, "He threw it at me." Even now, even bleeding and scared, I was still protecting him. Eventually, a woman in a white coat stepped in. "Rachel Foster?" She was in her early 40s with sharp, observant eyes. Her badge read, "Dr. Catherine Walsh, Emergency Medicine." She examined my temple gently. "Okay, tell me what happened." "I hit my head during a fall." "What caused the fall?" "It's complicated." "Rachel." She stopped and waited until I met her eyes. "I need to know what happened so I can treat you properly." Something about her directness made the practiced story crumble. "My brother threw a plate at my head during dinner. I passed out. When I woke up, I decided to come here." Dr. Walsh nodded slowly. "Okay. Thank you. This needs stitches, about 6. I'm also ordering a CT scan. You definitely have a concussion." "Okay." "Rachel." She sat down, eye level with me. "I'm pulling up your medical records. Is that all right?" "Sure, but I don't usually come here. I go to—" I stopped. "You rotate hospitals," she said gently. "Hartford General, Yale New Haven, Bridgeport, Norwalk, Stamford, Waterbury. 6 different hospitals in the past 3 years, plus 3 visits here." My mouth went dry. "I didn't know you could see all of them." "New statewide system went live last month, connects all our databases." She turned her tablet toward me. 9 ER visits in 3 years, Rachel. All for injuries you described as accidents." Seeing it laid out like that, dates, injuries, hospitals, made something crack open in my chest. "Each one felt like an isolated incident," Dr. Walsh continued. "Each one was explained away as clumsiness, or bad luck, or stress." I could only nod. "This isn't normal. Look here." She pulled up x-rays. This forearm fracture from last year, that's a defensive injury. You broke your arm blocking a blow. These rib fractures, the pattern suggests you were kicked while you were down. I can't. You've been systematically abused, Dr. Walsh said quietly. And you've been rotating hospitals so no one would see the pattern. Until now. The words hung in the air. Abused. I'd never let myself think that word. Dylan had anger problems. Dylan was stressed. Dylan didn't mean it. But abuse? I need to call in a social worker, Dr. Walsh said. And I'm filing a mandatory report with the police. This is protocol when we see patterns like this. No, you can't. My family. Your family isn't allowed to visit you while you're here. I've already notified security. You're safe. Safe. The word felt foreign. Dr. Walsh's pager buzzed. I need to step out, but someone will take you for your CT scan. And Rachel? She waited until I looked at her. You did the right thing coming here. You don't have to protect them anymore. Then she was gone, and I was alone with the weight of my entire life suddenly recontextualized into a single terrible word. Abuse. My phone buzzed again, and again, and again. I turned it off completely. For the first time in 24 years, I chose silence. I woke to the sound of machines beeping and fluorescent lights humming. For a moment, I forgot where I was. Then the dull throb in my temple reminded me, and everything came rushing back. The hospital room was small but clean. Dawn light filtered through the blinds, painting stripes across the white sheets. A security guard sat in a chair outside my door. I could see his silhouette through the narrow window, protecting me from my own family. The thought should have felt liberating. Instead, it felt surreal. My phone sat on the bedside table, still powered off. I stared at it like it might explode if I touched it. 17 messages last night. How many more had accumulated while I slept? A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Dr. Walsh entered, carrying a tablet and 2 cups of coffee. She handed me one. You look like you need this more than I do, she said, pulling up a chair. How are you feeling? Like I got hit in the head with a plate. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. Your CT scan came back, mild concussion as suspected, but we found something else. She pulled up images on her tablet. See these areas here? Old scarring on the brain tissue, evidence of previous head trauma that was never properly treated. I stared at the scans, not really understanding what I was looking at. What does that mean? It means you've had at least 3 significant concussions in the past 5 years, possibly more. Did you know that? I thought they were just bad headaches, migraines maybe. Dr. Walsh made a note. Untreated concussions can lead to serious complications. Memory problems, mood changes, chronic pain. You're lucky you came in when you did. Lucky. The word felt wrong, but I didn't correct her. Another knock. A man in his late 40s entered, badge clipped to his belt. He was African American, with kind eyes and the solid build of someone who'd spent decades on the job. Ms. Foster, I'm Officer James Johnson. Dr. Walsh called me last night. Do you have a few minutes to talk? I clutched the coffee cup tighter. I don't know if I want to press charges. That's okay. You don't have to decide that right now. He pulled up another chair, moving slowly like he was approaching a frightened animal. I just need to ask some questions and document what happened. Is that all right? I nodded. For the next 20 minutes, Officer Johnson asked questions while taking notes. He was methodical but gentle, never pushing when I hesitated. He photographed my injuries from multiple angles, each click of the camera making me flinch. These bruises on your arms, he said, pointing to marks I'd barely noticed. How old are they? I don't know. A week? Maybe 2? Do you remember how you got them? I tried to think back. Dylan grabbed me. We were arguing about, I don't remember what. Something stupid. He grabbed you hard enough to leave bruises. He didn't mean to. When he gets upset, he doesn't realize his own strength. Officer Johnson and Dr. Walsh exchanged a look that made my stomach tighten. Rachel, Officer Johnson said carefully. I pulled some preliminary records yesterday. Not just medical. Police records, too. Did you know your family has called the police to your home address 4 times in the past 3 years? I set down my coffee. What? No, that's not. We've never called the police. Your neighbors did. Noise complaints, reports of shouting, things breaking. Each time, officers responded. Each time, your parents told them everything was fine. Family argument. Nothing to see here. He consulted his notes. The last time was 6 months ago. A neighbor reported hearing a woman screaming. Do you remember that night? I did, suddenly. Dylan had been furious about something, a work presentation that went badly. I'd made the mistake of suggesting he was overreacting. He'd shoved me into the wall so hard a picture frame fell and shattered. I'd screamed, then spent the next hour convincing my parents we didn't need to go to the hospital. The bleeding was internal. They couldn't see it. It was fine. Rachel? Officer Johnson's voice was gentle. I remember, I whispered. The officer who responded that night made a note. He said your mother was very insistent about not coming inside, very defensive. That raised a red flag, but without anyone willing to file a complaint, he couldn't do anything. They were just trying to protect our privacy. The Fosters don't. I stopped, hearing my mother's words in my own mouth. We don't air our dirty laundry. Right. Officer Johnson closed his notebook. I'm going to be honest with you, Rachel. These patterns, the rotating hospitals, the police calls your parents intercepted, the injuries that keep happening. This isn't normal family conflict. This is systematic abuse. There was that word again, abuse. I need some air, I said abruptly. Dr. Walsh stood. You're not cleared to leave the floor yet, but there's a small visitor's lounge at the end of the hall. Officer Johnson, could you give us a moment? He nodded and stepped out. Dr. Walsh waited until the door closed before speaking. I know this is overwhelming, but Rachel, there's something else you need to know. She pulled up a new set of documents on her tablet. Last night, while you were sleeping, I made some calls, talked to colleagues at the other hospitals you visited, and I found something disturbing. My hands started shaking. What? Your mother called ahead to at least 3 of those hospitals before you arrived. Dr. Walsh's expression was hard now, angry. She told them you had a history of mental health issues, that you were prone to self-harm and attention-seeking behavior. She sent them falsified psychiatric records. The room tilted. That's not... She wouldn't... Rachel, doctor. Walsh turned the tablet toward me. I saw email chains, phone logs, scanned documents with letterheads from psychiatric practices I'd never visited, reports diagnosing me with conditions I didn't have. This is systematic. Your mother has been running interference for years, making sure that when you showed up at emergency rooms with suspicious injuries, the staff would be predisposed to doubt you. I read the documents, my vision blurring. A psychiatric evaluation from 2021 claiming I had borderline personality disorder and a history of self-injury. Another from 2022 describing me as manipulative and prone to fabricating crises for attention. Detailed medical histories I'd supposedly given, describing elaborate fantasies and delusions. None of it was real. How? My voice came out as a croak. How did she do this? Money, mostly. She paid a retired doctor, Dr. Raymond Shaw, $5,000 to create these records. We found the bank transfer. She took legitimate letterhead from actual practices and created false documents. Then she'd call hospitals' administrative offices, playing the concerned mother with a troubled daughter. By the time you showed up bleeding and confused, the staff thought they were dealing with a psychiatric patient, not an abuse victim. I thought about all those ER visits, the doctors who'd seemed skeptical when I said I fell, the nurses who'd discharged me faster than seemed right, the one psychiatrist who'd been called for a consultation and spent 10 minutes asking me leading questions about whether I heard voices or had thoughts of hurting myself. They hadn't been bad at their jobs. They'd been deliberately misled. She sabotaged me, I said slowly. Every time I tried to get help, she was already there poisoning the well. Yes. But why? Why would she do that? I looked up at Dr. Walsh, desperate for an answer that made sense. I'm her daughter. Something flickered in Dr. Walsh's expression. Pity, maybe, or recognition. Rachel, has your mother always treated Dylan differently than you? More protective, more defensive? He's always been the golden child, but that's normal, right? Some parents play favorites. To this extent? Dr. Walsh gestured at the documents. This isn't just favoritism. This is covering up serious crimes, repeatedly, at great personal risk and expense. Why would a mother go to such lengths to protect one child while actively endangering another? I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I did, but I wasn't ready to face it yet. A knock at the door. Amanda Bradford, the social worker, entered with Officer Johnson behind her. She was in her early 30s with a professional warmth that felt genuine. "Rachel, I'm Amanda. I work with the hospital's crisis intervention team. Dr. Walsh filled me in on what's been happening. I'm so sorry you're going through this." "Everyone keeps apologizing," I said, hearing the bitterness in my voice. "But nobody can tell me why my own mother would do this to me." Amanda exchanged a look with Dr. Walsh, then sat down. "Sometimes parents make choices that prioritize one child's well-being over another's. It's not right, and it's not your fault. But right now, we need to focus on keeping you safe." "Safe from my family." The words sounded absurd. "This is insane. This doesn't happen to people like me. I grew up in a nice house. My dad's a lawyer. My mom sits on charity boards. We're normal." "Abuse doesn't discriminate based on zip code," Officer Johnson said quietly. "I've seen it in mansions and trailer parks. The common thread isn't poverty or education. It's power and control." Amanda pulled out a folder. "I've been making calls this morning. Did you know your family has been to this hospital before? Not you, your mother and brother. 6 years ago." "For what?" "Your brother had an altercation with a girlfriend, Brianna Peterson. She came in with a broken nose and claims he attacked her. Your parents were here within an hour. They spoke with hospital administration, with the girl's parents. By the time the police were called, everyone had agreed it was a misunderstanding. The girl's family accepted a financial settlement, and the whole thing went away." My coffee had gone cold in my hands. "Brianna Peterson. I remember her. Dylan dated her senior year of high school. He said she was crazy, that she broke up with him and spread rumors to get revenge." "She wasn't crazy," Officer Johnson said. "She was 16 and scared. Your parents paid her family $50,000 to make it go away." The room was too small suddenly, too hot. How many what? How many others were there? Before me? Before Brianna? Amanda opened her mouth, then closed it. "We're still investigating. But Rachel, I need you to understand something. This isn't about your brother having anger management issues. This is a pattern of predatory behavior that your parents have been enabling and covering up for over a decade." "He's sick," I said automatically. "He needs help, not—" "He's dangerous," Dr. Walsh interrupted, her voice sharp. "And your parents have been protecting a predator while systematically undermining you every time you tried to seek help. That's not parenting. That's conspiracy." The word hung in the air. Conspiracy. Like something from a crime show, not from my life. My phone, still off, seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. How many messages were waiting? How many threats disguised as concern? How many manipulations wrapped in family loyalty? "What happens now?" I asked. Officer Johnson leaned forward. "That depends on you. We have enough evidence to pursue charges against your brother for assault, against your parents for obstruction of justice, falsifying medical records, and possibly more once we finish investigating. But you'd need to make a formal statement. You'd need to testify." "And if I don't?" "Then nothing changes. Your brother goes home. Your parents continue their cover-up, and next time—" He stopped himself. "Next time what?" "Next time you might not make it to a hospital," Dr. Walsh finished quietly. I looked at each of them in turn. These strangers who'd appeared in my life less than 24 hours ago, but who seemed to care more about my safety than my own family did. "I need time," I said. "I need to think." "Of course," Amanda said. "But Rachel, your mother tried to visit this morning. Security turned her away per Dr. Walsh's orders. She threatened to sue the hospital, called her lawyers, made quite a scene. Your father is filing paperwork to have you discharged against medical advice. They're not going to let this go quietly." "Sir?" Of course they weren't. The Fosters didn't lose. They didn't face consequences. They certainly didn't let their reputation get tarnished by an ungrateful daughter who couldn't keep her mouth shut. I need my phone, I said suddenly. Rachel, Dr. Walsh started. I need to see what they're saying. I need to know what I'm dealing with. Against her better judgment, Dr. Walsh handed me my phone. I powered it on, and notifications exploded across the screen. 53 messages, 21 missed calls, 7 voicemails. I opened the messages, my hands shaking. Mom, where are you? Mom, the hospital won't tell us anything. This is unacceptable. Mom, our lawyer is drawing up papers to have you released. Dad, you're making a terrible mistake. Dylan, I'm so sorry, sis. Please let me make this right. Dylan, I'm checking into therapy. Real help this time. Dylan, just talk to Mom. She's worried sick. Dylan, please. Dylan, fine, if that's how you want it. Dylan, you're going to regret this. Dylan, I know where you work. Your boss Lauren is friends with Dad. The last message had been sent an hour ago, a threat barely veiled. I looked up at Officer Johnson. I want to press charges against all of them. The meeting was scheduled for 2 o'clock that afternoon. Hospital conference room, neutral territory. Amanda would be present, along with Officer Johnson and hospital security. My parents had hired an attorney who'd petitioned a judge for a supervised family meeting, claiming I was being held against my will and prevented from making informed decisions. The judge had agreed, with conditions. I sat in the small conference room, staring at the door. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Dr. Walsh had offered me something to calm my nerves, but I'd refused. I needed to be clear-headed for this. You don't have to do this, Amanda said for the 3rd time. She sat beside me, a legal pad and pen in front of her. You can walk out at any time. The security guard will escort them out if you feel unsafe. I need to hear what they have to say. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. I need to look them in the eye and hear them explain this. Officer Johnson stood by the window, arms crossed. He'd been quiet all morning, but I could feel his disapproval radiating off him like heat. He didn't think this meeting was a good idea. He was probably right. At 1:58, the door opened. My father entered first, looking every inch the successful attorney in his tailored suit. His face was composed, professional. Behind him came my mother, dressed like she was heading to a board meeting. Designer dress, pearls, perfect makeup that couldn't quite hide the anger in her eyes. And then, Dylan. He looked terrible. Unshaven, rumpled shirt, dark circles under his eyes, the picture of a man falling apart. He met my gaze for half a second, then looked away. Behind them, an older man in an expensive suit entered. Harrison Caldwell. He introduced himself, settling into a chair across from me. I'm representing the Foster family. Just them, I said quietly. Not me. Of course. His smile was professional, slightly condescending. Let's all try to keep this civil, shall we? My mother's hands were clenched on the table. She stared at me like I was a stranger. Or maybe like I'd always been a stranger and she was only just now admitting it. Rachel, honey. My father started, using his courtroom voice. Measured. Reasonable. We're all very concerned about you. This has been a terrible misunderstanding, and we'd like to work together to resolve it. Misunderstanding, I repeated flatly. Your mother and I have been doing a lot of soul-searching since Sunday night. We realize we may have minimized some things, enabled behaviors that weren't healthy. He paused, like he was expecting applause for this admission. We want to make this right. Caldwell slid a document across the table. My clients have prepared a proposal. If you'll review it, I think you'll find it more than fair. I didn't touch the papers. Amanda picked them up instead, scanning quickly. Her expression darkened. This is a non-disclosure agreement, she said, with a financial settlement contingent on Ms. Foster dropping all charges and never discussing the incidents publicly. A generous settlement, Caldwell corrected. $250,000 to be held in trust until Ms. Foster turns 30, all medical expenses covered, including therapy, and Dylan will attend court-ordered anger management, paid for by the family. I looked at Dylan. He was staring at his hands. Rachel, please. My mother's voice cracked. Real tears now, or a performance of them. You're tearing this family apart. Dylan's career is on the line. Your father's firm is getting questions from clients. People are talking. People are talking, I echoed. That's what matters. Not that Dylan put me in the hospital. Not that this has been happening for years. People are talking. Don't twist my words. Her tears vanished, replaced by cold fury. You know what I mean. We have a reputation in this community. The Fosters are respected, and you're throwing that away over what, Mom? Over my brother beating me unconscious? He didn't beat you, she snapped. It was one plate, one accident. You've always been so dramatic, so fragile. Ever since you were little, you've blown everything out of proportion. Karen, my father's warning voice, but she was past caring. We've protected you for years, covered for your episodes, made excuses when you'd cause scenes, paid for therapists and medications. What episodes? I stood up, my chair scraping back. What medications? I've never been on psychiatric medication in my life. See? This is exactly what I'm talking about. You don't even remember. The dissociative episodes, the attention-seeking behavior, Dr. Shaw documented everything. Dr. Shaw falsified everything, Officer Johnson interrupted. We have the bank records, Mrs. Foster. We know you paid him $5,000 to create fake psychiatric histories for your daughter. The room went silent. Caldwell's face went pale. I'm going to advise my clients not to answer that. You paid him? I stared at my mother. You created fake records to make people think I was crazy? I did what I had to do to protect this family. Her voice was shaking now, but not with tears, with rage. To protect Dylan. He has potential, Rachel, a future, real promise. And you're just... Karen, stop! My father's voice was sharp now, but she couldn't stop. Years of resentment were pouring out. You were always the problem, always causing drama, always making things difficult. We gave you everything, a home, an education, opportunities, and this is how you repay us? I was a child, I said, my voice breaking. I was your daughter. You were... She stopped abruptly, hand flying to her mouth. Something flickered in her eyes. Horror, realization that she'd gone too far, but it was too late. I was what? I asked quietly. Nothing. Forget I said anything. Karen. My father's voice held a warning, but also resignation, like he knew what was coming and couldn't stop it. Say it, I demanded. I was what? Dylan looked up for the first time, his expression stricken. Mom, don't! Say it, I repeated, louder now. My mother's composure shattered. Fine, you want the truth? You were supposed to be grateful. We took you in when nobody else wanted you. We gave you our name, our home, our resources, and all you've done is cause problems. The words hung in the air, their meaning slowly penetrating my brain. Took me in? My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from underwater. What does that mean? Mrs. Foster, I strongly advise you to stop talking, Caldwell said urgently. But Karen Foster was past advice. Years of carefully maintained lies were crumbling, and she seemed almost relieved to let them fall. You were adopted, 6 months old. We couldn't have children, so we adopted you. Then I got pregnant with Dylan, a miracle, the doctors called it, and suddenly we had our real child. Karen, for God's sake! My father tried to stop her, but she kept going. You were supposed to be grateful, supposed to understand that Dylan was special, that he needed more attention, more protection. But no, you always had to make everything about you, always had to be the victim. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning, but not from the concussion this time. Blood matters, Rachel, my mother continued, her voice cold now. It just does. Dylan is my son, my real son. You were just an obligation, a charitable act that we've been paying for ever since. Mom! Dylan stood up, his face white. Stop it! Just stop! But I barely heard him. 24 years of life were recontextualizing themselves in real time. Every time Dylan got away with something and I didn't. Every time his needs came before mine. Every time I was told to be understanding, to make allowances, to remember how hard things were for him. I wasn't really their daughter. I was just an obligation they'd been saddled with before their real child came along. "How long have you known?" I asked Dylan. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Since I was 12. I overheard them talking. 12. 16 years he'd known. 16 years of watching them protect him at my expense, and he'd known why. Did it make it easier, knowing I wasn't really your sister? Don't say that." His voice cracked. "You are my sister. Your sister you've put in the hospital 9 times. I never meant—" He stopped. "I have problems, okay? I'm sick. I need help." "You've been getting help," Officer Johnson said coldly. "Dr. Peter Morrison, 6 years of treatment for intermittent explosive disorder and narcissistic personality traits. Your mother pulled you out of therapy after 8 months because she didn't want you on medication." And Dylan's head snapped up. "How do you— That's confidential?" "Not anymore. We have a warrant." Officer Johnson pulled out his own folder. "Dr. Morrison's notes make for interesting reading. He warned your parents you were a danger to others, specifically to Rachel. Direct quote from 2021. Patient showed no remorse when discussing violence towards sister. Stated she deserved it for disrespecting him." Should I go on? My father had his head in his hands. My mother was crying. Real tears this time, not the performed kind. "You knew," I said slowly, looking at her. "You knew Dylan was dangerous. You knew he needed treatment, and you chose his reputation over my safety." "I chose my son," she said, meeting my eyes finally. "Every time I chose my son, and I'd do it again." The honesty of it was almost shocking. No more excuses, no more deflection, just the raw truth. She'd chosen him over me again and again, knowing exactly what it meant. I looked at Amanda. "I want to press full charges. Against Dylan for assault. Against both of them for obstruction of justice, falsifying records, witness tampering, everything." "Rachel, please," my father tried. "You don't get to Rachel please me anymore. You chose him. You both did. For my entire life." Caldwell stood. "This meeting is over. My clients won't be making any further statements." "Good," Officer Johnson said, "because I'm placing them under arrest." Everything happened very fast then. Officer Johnson radiating for backup, my mother lunging toward me, screaming something I couldn't understand over the roaring in my ears. Security guards entering, separating everyone. Caldwell shouting about unlawful arrest and his client's rights. Through it all, I stood frozen, watching my family fracture apart like porcelain hitting a kitchen floor. Dylan caught my eye as they let him out. "I'm sorry," he mouthed, but I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no guilt. Just a strange, hollow numbness where my family used to be. Amanda's hand was on my shoulder. "Rachel, are you okay?" I almost laughed. Was I okay? I'd just discovered my entire life was a lie, that the people I'd called family for 24 years had never really considered me one of them, that I'd been abused for years by someone who knew exactly what he was doing, protected by people who loved him more than they could ever love me. "No," I said finally, "but I will be." And 3 days after my parents' arrest, Officer Johnson returned to my hospital room with a subpoena in hand. "Dylan's psychiatrist," he said, handing me the document. "Dr. Peter Morrison. He's been ordered to provide testimony regarding your brother's treatment history." I was sitting up now, the worst of the concussion symptoms fading. They were discharging me tomorrow. Amanda had helped me find a temporary apartment in a women's shelter. Not ideal, but safe. Somewhere my family couldn't find me. "Can they do that?" I asked. "Isn't that doctor-patient confidentiality?" "Not when there's a court order and evidence of ongoing danger to others." Officer Johnson sat down heavily. "Rachel, what I'm about to tell you, it's going to be hard to hear." I'd thought nothing could shock me anymore. I was wrong. Dr. Morrison's sealed testimony had been reviewed that morning. Officer Johnson read from his notes, his voice clinical, detached, but I could see the anger in his eyes. Dylan had been diagnosed 6 years ago. Intermittent explosive disorder, a condition characterized by sudden episodes of extreme anger and violence, disproportionate to the situation. But that wasn't all. Dr. Morrison had also noted traits of narcissistic personality disorder and warned about possible early-stage antisocial personality disorder. "What does that mean?" I asked, though part of me already knew. "It means your brother doesn't process empathy the way most people do. He knew he was hurting you. He just didn't care." Officer Johnson flipped through more pages. Dr. Morrison recommended intensive therapy, possible medication, and absolutely no unsupervised contact with family members he'd previously harmed. Specifically, you. What did my parents say? Your mother refused medication, said she didn't want her son drugged. They stopped therapy after 8 months. Dr. Morrison documented his warnings, told them Dylan's violence would escalate without treatment. Your mother's response is in the notes. Rachel can handle it. She's tough. The words landed like physical blows. She'd known. They'd both known Dylan was dangerous, that he was getting worse, and they'd chosen to do nothing. Worse than nothing. They'd actively covered it up. "There's more," Officer Johnson said quietly. "Dr. Morrison's session notes from 2019 to 2024. Your brother discussed his violence toward you in detail, and Rachel—" He looked at me directly. He showed no remorse. In one session he said, and I'm quoting here, "She deserves it when she disrespects me." In another, "Sometimes I think about really hurting her, like, permanently." My hands had gone numb. He fantasized about killing me. Dr. Morrison documented it as a serious threat. He warned your parents again. They stopped bringing Dylan to sessions entirely. I thought about all those years, all those accidents and stress-related incidents. Dylan had known exactly what he was doing, and he'd enjoyed it. "Dr. Morrison is willing to testify," Officer Johnson continued. His testimony, combined with the medical evidence, the falsified records, the payoff to Brianna Peterson. The DA thinks we have a solid case. For what exactly? Against Dylan, 3 counts of assault and battery, aggravated assault, witness intimidation. Against your mother, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, falsifying medical records, child endangerment. Against your father, accessory after the fact, bribery of a medical professional. They're arraigning them tomorrow. Tomorrow. Everything was happening so fast. The DA also wants to hold a press conference, Officer Johnson said carefully. Your case is getting attention. Local lawyer's family arrested for decade-long abuse cover-up. It's the kind of story that makes headlines. I don't want to be a headline. I know, but Rachel, this might bring other victims forward. People who Dylan hurt, people your parents paid off or intimidated into silence. I thought about Brianna Peterson, how young she'd been, how scared. "Okay," I said quietly. "Tell them okay. Kek." The press conference happened 2 days later. I wasn't there. Amanda advised against it, but I watched it on the hospital TV before my discharge. The district attorney was a severe-looking woman named Patricia Vance. She stood at a podium, cameras flashing, and outlined the charges in crisp, professional language. 3 members of the Foster family arrested. Pattern of abuse spanning 12 years. Multiple victims. Systematic cover-up involving falsified medical records and payoffs to silence victims. She didn't use my name, but she didn't have to. In a town like ours, everyone would know exactly who she was talking about. My phone, a new number, Amanda's suggestion, buzzed once. A text from an unknown number. "Thank you for being brave. Brianna." Then another. "I was Dylan's girlfriend in college. I'm ready to talk if it helps. Stephanie." And another. "He did the same thing to me. My family took the money and made me stay quiet. Not anymore." Courtney. By the end of the day, 3 more women had contacted the DA's office. 3 more victims Dylan had hurt while my parents ran interference. I wasn't alone. I'd never been alone. Just silenced. The trial took 8 months to reach the courtroom. 8 months of depositions, evidence gathering, and waiting. 8 months of learning to live without the family I thought I had. I moved to Boston, started therapy twice a week, got a job as a patient advocate at Massachusetts General Hospital, helping other domestic violence survivors navigate the system that had almost failed me. Dr. Walsh wrote me a recommendation that got me hired on the spot. Amanda checked in every week. Officer Johnson sent occasional texts, dad jokes mostly, which somehow helped more than I could explain. The other victims, Brianna, Stephanie, Courtney, and Jessica, Dylan's co-worker who'd finally reported his sexual assault. We formed a group chat. Survivors united by one man's violence and two parents' complicity. When the trial finally came, I was ready. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Dylan sat at the defendant's table in a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, looking nothing like the monster I knew he was. My parents sat separately, each with their own attorney now. They hadn't spoken to each other in months, their marriage another casualty of the truth. I testified first, 3 hours on the stand, walking through years of abuse while Dylan stared at the table. I didn't cry. I didn't falter. I just told the truth, finally, without anyone cutting me off or calling me dramatic. Then Brianna, then Stephanie, then Courtney, then Jessica. 4 women, 4 stories, same pattern. Dylan's violence, my parents' money, silence purchased and enforced. Dr. Morrison's testimony was clinical but damning. Dr. Walsh's medical evidence irrefutable. The falsified psychiatric records, my mother's elaborate cover-up, displayed on screens for the jury to see. My mother cried on the stand. Real tears this time, but for herself, not for me. "I was protecting my son," she sobbed. "Any mother would do the same." But the prosecutor, sharp, relentless Patricia Vance, wasn't having it. "Mrs. Foster, did you know your daughter suffered 9 separate emergency room visits due to your son's violence? They were accidents. Did you falsify medical records to prevent hospital staff from recognizing abuse? I was trying to protect. Did you pay Dr. Raymond Shaw $5,000 to create fake psychiatric evaluations of your daughter?" Silence. "Mrs. Foster, I'll ask again. Did you pay?" "Yes." Her voice broke. "Yes, I did. To protect Dylan. He's my real son. She was just—" "Just what, Mrs. Foster?" My mother looked at me for the first time in 8 months. "Just someone we took in." The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty. All counts. All 3 defendants. Heck. 1 year later, I stood in my small apartment in Cambridge, looking out at the Charles River. Dylan was serving 6 years at MCI Concord. My mother, 3 years at MCI Framingham. My father, 18 months, already out on good behavior and pretending none of it had happened. My phone buzzed. A text from my grandmother. My biological grandmother, Patricia Bennett, who'd found me through the trial publicity. We were having dinner tonight. Her, my aunt, 2 cousins I'd never known existed, a family who'd been looking for me for 24 years. Another text from James, the high school teacher I'd been cautiously dating for 3 months. Patient, kind, and the first person who made me believe love didn't have to hurt. "Still on for the museum tomorrow?" I smiled and texted back, "Yes." Dr. Walsh's words from that first night echoed in my mind. You don't have to protect them anymore. She was right. I'd spent 24 years protecting people who never protected me, learning that silence was loyalty, that family meant sacrifice, that my pain mattered less than their reputation. But I'd learned something else, too, that speaking up was survival, that real family didn't require your silence, that I was worth saving. The Fosters had taught me to disappear. I'd taught myself to exist, and that made all the difference.